You've all seen the press release, so I will just touch on a few high-level data points, give a quick update on a few program-related updates on work search, resources for work search, and then talk a little bit about fraud. On last week's press call, we noted that we hadn't seen a real high incident of fraud coming into Colorado. We have seen an uptick in just the last week, though, so I'd like to give an update on that, how we're detecting it, and what we're doing to pursue investigation of fraud. And then we'll also give just a quick update on what we're just seeing generally with customer service. Specifically, we opened up our lobby on Monday at 251 East 12th Avenue. And so just a quick update on what we're seeing in terms of traffic, on-site access to claims assistance. And I'll send it to Jeff Fitzgerald for that update. So as noted in the press release, we've surpassed the $2 billion point in total unemployment benefits paid, $2.2 billion. Our reference week is actually March 29th, and it will be here forward. And that's because that's the week where we really started to see an impact from COVID-19 on claims. And so here forward, that will be our reference week. 2.2 billion total. That's regular unemployment, pandemic unemployment assistance, and pandemic unemployment compensation. We did see just a small uptick in regular initial claims over the reference week last week. And so we had been seeing a steady decline, and we did see just a very slight uptick. That is notable, very insignificant, quite frankly, though, and Ryan can fill in the blanks on that one. And then we did also see an increase in PUA claims. Could be for a variety of reasons. We believe mostly we could attribute that to people who had exhausted regular benefits are now eligible to apply for the PUA benefits. And so we expected to see an uptick in those PUA claims, and we believe that's what would account for that increase. We also, as we mentioned last week now, are returning our work search requirements for workers. And again, this is for both regular unemployment and pandemic unemployment assistance claimants, who are the gig workers, self-employed, and independent contractors. We stood up a new webpage on our website at coloradoui.gov. There's actually a link in the news and alert section that links to that webpage. And similar to our returning claimant pages on the website, we have a side-by-side reference so that if it's a regular or traditional unemployment claim, they can walk through the steps required to conduct a valid work search. Similarly, for PUA claimants, we have examples of what constitutes a valid work search for those claimants. Again, notifying the claimants their claims may be audited to determine that they conducted a valid work search. This is as part of the able, available, and actively seeking work, we did remove or created more lenience around the actively seeking work there during the safer at home and stay at home orders. Now that we are returning to work and employers are calling their workers back, we are reinstituting those work search requirements. And so folks need to not just be able and available, but actively seeking work as well. And as Jeff noted there, except for W-2 workers. So again, we'll be revising the work search page. We're also creating, as part of our how-to video guide series, a series on conducting a valid work search for both a traditional W-2 worker and a PUA claimant and what that means for them. So I think along the lines of work search, we are trying to now start to embed into our notifications to claimants, our website content, our how-to video guides, all the job assistance resources that are available to workers as they now begin to pursue employment opportunities and reemployment. A number of things in the last few weeks that we were highlighting to our claimant community. One is just really shining the light on the network of workforce centers available to provide job search assistance, training, and other services to workers as they transition into new employment. That's a county and state-run network of workforce centers available throughout Denver Metro and rural Colorado. A list of those workforce centers can be found at coloradoui.gov. Also, we entered into a partnership with Onward US and created Onward SIA. We launched this several weeks ago. This is another one-stop access point for workers to obtain training information, job search assistance, access job boards, and a variety of other support services and resources. And then lastly, connectingcolorado.com. This is the state's jobs database, has over 35,000 jobs, active job listings in there currently in a variety of industries. And again, all of these resources are linked from coloradoui.gov. And now I just want to give a quick update on fraud. So it's been reported that many other states are seeing at sometimes pretty sophisticated fraud rings. And while we have not seen the rings that have been reported nationally, such as there is a pretty well-known Nigerian scam, in the last week we have seen an increase in stolen identity. So a fraudster would obtain PII. Typically, this has been through larger security breaches in the last several years. So that PII is stolen and sold on the dark web. And these fraudsters are taking that PII and filing fraudulent claims in multiple states. And we're hearing about this in a couple of ways. Number one, we're getting tips from the victims of the fraud scheme who are actually receiving a debit card in the mail. So a Relia card that has benefits on it. And they have never applied for unemployment. They're still potentially actively working. They call into the bank on the card and realize there is a balance on the card. And so what's happening is the fraudster is filing claims in multiple states and then attaching bank routing information to that claim and receiving the funds that way. The best way for us to detect this is in partnership with financial institutions, local law enforcement, advocate for awareness on the part of just securing your PII, working with employers. So potentially an employer could get a request for information on a job separation, and that would alert them to they in fact had not had a job separation with this worker, and they would notify us. So we're working in partnership with U.S. Department of Labor, the Secret Service, FBI, local law enforcement agencies once we've detected this to investigate it further. We have about 300 instances of fraud that have been reported to us that we're investigating. We have a fraud tip form on our website. If somebody suspects fraud, is a victim of fraud, or has heard of a fraud scheme, they can report that to us. And so it certainly has ticked up a bit since we last reported to you last week. And we'll continue to keep you updated on our efforts to detect and prevent and investigate fraud. And with that, I think I will turn it over to Jeff. Did I miss anything in those two updates that you'd like to add to? And then we can just talk about what we're seeing with customer service.
You were pretty thorough. I will add just a few elements on the fraud topic, and that is that nationally the UI programs work together to combat this issue because, as Cher said, in many instances, a fraudster will have claims that span many different states. And so both internally, we do a cross-match on claims to demonstrate, for example, if we've got multiple claims that are going to the same banking routing number, or if they're leveraging the same email address, things along those lines. We also have a database of sort of known fraudulent variables, including IP addresses in some instances, or email addresses and the like. And then more nationally, we also work with UI programs across the nation to do similar activity. So we have cross matches inside the state. We also have cross matches that we execute nationally to help combat this issue. So just want to make it clear that we're working diligently on this. We have systems in place to help to root this out. The other element we wanted to talk about was the lobby activity. We, as Cher said, we opened our lobby on Monday. We're scheduling about 40 appointments a day, by appointment only, and we're scheduled out through about mid-July currently. We keep the schedule open for about 6 weeks out. And That's been going well. Again, our foremost concerns are getting people the help that they need, and also being considerate of their well-being and the staff's well-being as well. So we are scheduling out appointments such that we can promote social distancing in our lobby to get people the service that they need. Note that we are tracking the reasons for visits. And by and large, the most instances for the reason for the visit are items that can be executed online, assuming that you have online connectivity. So again, we just put out the call to claimants that are having struggles to please use our online services. We've been fairly robust, I think very robust, in developing out our online communication, our web-based communication. And in most instances, you can get your problems resolved through that medium. And also would, for those that might have challenges in navigating the website, would remind everyone that there's a chat bot function that can help you to do so. Cher, what did I miss in that update?
I think you covered, again, just to emphasize that we're tracking the reasons, and some of the top reasons for visits to or appointments within the lobby are an individual needs to backdate their claim, which again can be done online. That's a new functionality. An individual needs to reset their password for their account. Again, that is a self-service option online. And specifically with pandemic unemployment assistance claims, an individual needs to submit their tax return information. Again, all of that functionality is available online through the website or within the either application. So our goal is to create greater awareness around those self-service tools. If somebody does not have access to the internet, let's say in rural Colorado, or just somebody who doesn't have internet access, they are able to visit their local workforce center who can help engage them with other support services, including access. If I could ask my moderator to mute the doorbell, that would be great. So with that, Wayne has a question, Ryan, about 2.2 billion. That's a good question. 2.2 billion equals how many previous years of benefit payments?
Can I address it during my
yes.
part? I may be up on my part, but I'm trying to pull up the spreadsheet so I can give him an accurate description.
Well, with that, let's just go ahead and turn it over to you for your presentation.
All right, thanks, Cher. And I don't have a ton to cover today, but again, I'm happy to answer questions like Wayne's great question here. So let's start with the most recent initial claims data. Again, an initial claim is one file to establish eligibility for unemployment benefits. Initial claim data are released on a 1-week lag. So again, the most recent data available is for the week ending June 6. The state processed 12,941 regular UI initial claims for the week ending June 6. Additionally, 10,151 PUA initial claims were filed last week. And that brings the total number of initial claims for the week of June 6 to 23,092. And Cher touched earlier on why we saw an increase in those PUA claims. So that's an increase of about 4,500 total initial claims compared to the week prior. That marks the first time in nearly 2 months we have seen a rise in initial claim level on a week-over-week basis. Just kind of taking a quick peek at the USDOL press release earlier this morning, it seemed like about half the states saw an increase on a week-over-week basis. So that'll be something to look out for if we are seeing some of that kind of second wave of new initial claims. But again, that rise in regular UI initial claims was fairly small this week. Continued claims for the week ending May 30th increased to nearly 263,000 compared to the week prior of 243,800. Again, a continued claim is filed weekly after eligibility has been established through an initial claim. Not all weeks claimed result in payment because the claimant may not be available to work, may have earnings that exceeded the available amount or allowed amount, or other reasons. For the past 5 weeks, continued claims have ranged between 243 and 265,000. The PUA program registered 105,613 continued claims for the week of the 30th. And we have seen those claims steadily rise since the beginning of May. As previously stated, not all weeks claimed result in payment. However, we do have data for weeks paid. The number of weeks paid are on a 1 week lag. The most recent data available is for the week ending June 6th. The number of weeks paid for the week of the 6th were 263,357. That's slightly higher than the average of 247,000 over the past 7 weeks. The department paid out $93.1 million in regular UI to regular UI recipients for the week of June 6th. Weekly benefit amounts over the past 7 weeks have averaged $90 million. As we detailed in today's press release, nearly $800 million in regular UI benefits have been paid out since the end of March. Again, we use March 29th as kind of that cutoff date, as that is when we really started seeing those increases in benefit amounts due to the rise in initial claims from mid-March. The average weekly benefit amount for regular UI recipients around that period is around $383. An additional $33.8 million in pandemic unemployment assistance benefits were paid out last week. And since that program became active in Colorado on April 20th, $227 million has been distributed to PUA recipients. Remember, these self-employed and gig workers were individuals who were not eligible to receive unemployment insurance benefits in prior years. And finally, the department has paid out close to $1.2 billion in federal pandemic unemployment compensation. Again, that is the additional 600 in weekly benefits to eligible claimants. Per current legislation, the end of July. So Wayne, in terms of your question for the $2.2 billion, just as a comparison, we paid out $2.2 billion in what's a little over 2 months. During the that's pretty much equivalent to what we paid out during the Great Recession for all programs. So it is quite substantial. If we look back, just looking at annual data, waiting for my Excel sheet to open here. Okay, here we go. So, all right, so from 2015 to 2019, total benefits paid for those years, so those 5 years, was $2.3 billion. So, again, we're seeing an improving economy, lower benefit amounts. That just kind of gives you an idea to that type of volume. If you want to compare it to the, again, 2010, we paid out $2.2 billion. Again, that's all program types. And I also have added these annual comparisons to the charts that we attach at the bottom of the press release. So that's closer to the end of that document, but you can see annual benefit comparisons from 2008 to present. And then in 2009, the state paid out about $1.7 billion. Again, a big difference there is we have PUA, which hadn't existed before. And also the FPUC, the 600 weekly amounts, as you can see, 1.1 billion, about half of what we're reporting since March 29th was paid out in FPUC. And again, that's also a payment amount that did not exist during the Great Recession. So those are some of those big differences there. That's what I have for now.
Question for you there, Ryan, from Dan.
So, Dan Mike is asking, I see on the continued claims chart, there's a yo-yo-like effect since the start of May, right? So each 1 week it goes down to 245,000. The next week it goes up to 263,000. It's very consistent in how it's doing that. And I'm expecting actually a continuation of that next week, just kind of looking at some preliminary data. So that does make it difficult to see kind of what is, our claims decreasing, our claims increasing. I would say kind of like the U.S., continued claims are plateauing. And like I mentioned last week, I think we need to see a couple more weeks of a breaking out of that trend to really determine kind of where where we might go in the long term. I don't have a good sense in what's causing the pattern necessarily, other than there's just a lot of churn in that UI activity, and basically those levels are stabilizing or plateauing, but at least they're not significantly increasing. So I think that's a positive takeaway.
Sorry, sleeping dog. So just a little bit of a clarification on access to workforce centers, then we can get to Wayne's question. So workforce centers can actually also help by phone or virtually with some of the reasons people are visiting the lobby in Denver. So I mentioned go to your local workforce center to access online services. Some of those are still not fully operational and accepting in-person access due to the transition out of stay-at-home orders, but claimants can certainly call their local workforce center, and many of those reasons that again are self-service, internet-enabled functions, a workforce center can help walk claimants through that. Back to you, Ryan.
Wayne's asking, is Colorado likely to see a decrease in the May unemployment rate like the national rate? My answer will be, we'll find out next Friday. So we'll have our call.
Nice try, Wayne.
we'll have our call on Friday, and then I'll be more than happy to talk about what we'll see for the state's unemployment rate. Thanks, Wayne.
And that's a good segue into, so next week we are releasing May jobs numbers on Friday. And so we will not have a Thursday press call. We will just hold a Friday press call at 10 a.m. with the May employment situation release at 8 a.m. This is a question about call center activity and issues trying to connect into the call center. So again, we have implemented a number of solutions in the last several weeks to try and address call center volume. As Jeff mentioned, certainly the on-site access has been utilized by several hundred, I think over 600 claimants have scheduled appointments now on site. As we reported last week, we are exploring another solution, which would expand capacity. What we see now is just the volume of calls into the single pathway into the call center is creating a strain, and it's preventing more calls successfully getting connected to an agent. So the quick advice we can give to claimants, as we noted at the top of the call, is if there is not an issue that has been set with their claim, such as they have multiple wages in other states they need to ask questions about, or any other eligibility situations, there are online self-service options available to them, including request a PIN, request a callback on file a claim, and request a backdate issue. That said, we acknowledge that there are just some instances where they do need to speak to an agent, and we hope in coming press calls we can announce something that we hope will make a significant impact into addressing the volume of claimant questions coming in. For pandemic unemployment assistance claimants, we are seeing very low hold times, if any. Generally, a claimant can get through to that line. It does still continue to trend toward record volume into our regular unemployment insurance call center, and we continue to work on how we can address those issues. For our partners on the call, many of you send me personally claimant inquiries or questions about their claims. Just know I'm still offering that up. So if you are hearing from claimants, certainly I'd be happy to help triage those and get them answers to their questions. And we're revising all of the website content, how-to videos, and other guidance as often as we can to get the most information out there. Jeff, is there anything I missed on addressing call center efficiency and operations?
No, I think you covered it very well. As you alluded to, we continue to work on new technology solutions, recognizing that it's going to take expansion of technology to properly address the masses that we're talking about. It from a staffing standpoint, there's a finite number of resources that are capable of servicing customers, and proud of my staff in terms of how hard they're working. It's just it's a spike we've never seen before, and it's a claims load specifically in regular unemployment that we've never encountered in such a short period of time, as Ryan's data indicates. In terms of the next question, in terms of 540,000 people and how many are sought out ongoing support, that's a really challenging question for me to answer. The reason it's tricky is because we've got claimants who are trying to get through, or potential claimants that are trying to get through to us, that are asking questions about if they're eligible and how to apply and things like that, and they're not yet part of that 540,000. And then we've got claimants that have active claims and are trying to get in touch with us, or do get in touch with us, and sometimes they have repeat calls. So I don't have unique data on just how many of the 540,000 people require ongoing assistance. I can tell you that it is a less than 10% type number, because the vast just the data would indicate in terms of sheer volume that the vast majority of people have filed claims and are getting weekly benefits. They're certifying weekly. They're getting their benefits properly, and there aren't issues on those claims. But the reality is that even if it's a small percentage, it's a very large total claim volume, and that's the challenge that we're having.
Now, I would just add, we've addressed this, tips for filing a claim effectively. We continue to see one of the top issues for reasons to call the call center is they've filed an initial claim, they've received their debit card, their PIN card, they've inputted their direct deposit information to the system, and they've not yet received a benefit. And the majority of those have not received a benefit because they have to actually request benefit payment. It is a process that you do need to certify with us weekly or bi-weekly that you are out of work, looking for work, and able to work before we can determine that you continue to be eligible for those benefits. So again, in one of our how-to video guides, we address receiving your first benefit payment. And so they do need to take action to receive that benefit. And we do continue to see questions from new claimants about that. Vacation time and the impact on unemployment. I think and Jeff, correct me if I'm wrong, I know we addressed severance in benefit amounts. I couldn't recall if vacation time is included in that as well as an offset.
So I'm not seeing a question that was chatted. Maybe it was chatted addressed to you.
It was to me privately, but this is a good opportunity. Yes, Kathy, you can send them to me. There are variables that would impact somebody's benefit amount, including severance payouts. And so with those variables, we do have guidance in our claimant handbook online, the guide to benefits. But yes, Kathy, I will connect with you on that one. So let's talk, Jeff, do you want to help me with this work search requirement, new work search requirements that we posted, and returning to work? What I did not get, and maybe Jeff has it this morning, is an update on reports of refusals to return. And I can capture that, Jeff, if you want to go ahead and try and address the next question.
Sure. The question's about the status of individuals who can substantiate vulnerable population status. Are they subject to work search requirements, remain unable to be compelled to return to work? Can you generally expand on the new rules impacting vulnerable populations? So first and foremost, yes. And so expanding on what I said earlier, if you are job attached, meaning you're not completely severed from the job that you had perhaps before you started unemployment insurance benefits, and it's just a matter of when your employer is going to call you back to work, then those individuals who are deemed to be and classified as job attached, they do not need to complete work search requirements for the ongoing duration of their benefits. The folks that are not job attached, we are expecting to perform work search activities, and those potentially could include vulnerable populations. I would remind folks that we, in recent years, we expanded what is defined as work search, and that's part of the website as well, is a clarification on what work search includes. And so that could include things like working with your workforce center to augment your skills, working with other online platforms to augment skills, increasing your profile online, things along those lines. So just because one's in a vulnerable population doesn't mean they shouldn't and can't leverage this time effectively to augment their resume, build up their skills, increase their platform in terms of a social presence professionally, et cetera, et cetera. Similar information is going to still apply to what we've talked about in previous weeks with regards to individuals who might be part of a vulnerable population, or even caring for someone immediately, that is, meaning in their household that's part of a vulnerable population. That's still going to be taken into the equation in terms of the analysis of whether they need to return to work. So if somebody can demonstrate that they're more susceptible to contracting COVID-19, regardless of some of the steps that their employer has taken, then they would probably be deemed eligible to continue on benefits. And I think that generally covers the third question as well, with regards to the rules impacting vulnerable populations.
I was able to just pull some data. So we've received just over 2,400 reports of refusal to return. We've processed about 1,500 of those, and we're still around the 17% mark of benefits denied due to the inability to validate the reasons for refusal to return. So we have not seen a real variance in the percent of claims denied. And again, the reasons that we are seeing reported are on the claimant side, general fear, unfortunately, without a valid way to substantiate that they are either a member of a vulnerable population or caring for a dependent who is. What else? Okay. We'll give it a few more seconds here. Just a reminder, next week there is no Thursday call. It's a Friday call at 10 a.m. to review May jobs numbers. I did see a private message, which I will address privately. And then just wait a couple of seconds here. Did we see anything else? Ryan, just to fact check, during 2015 and 2019, we paid out $2.3 billion, 2015 to 2019.
Yes, those are all 5 years combined.
Yep. So just again, between 2015 and 2019, for that 5-year period, we paid out $2.3 billion in benefits. And today we reported since March 29th, we've paid out $2.2 billion. Ryan, the 2015 to 2019, obviously we did not have federal extended benefits at that time, so it isn't necessarily the same data set you're looking at. So by 2015, we had actually rolled off of majority of extended benefits. There may have been a very small amount of state extended benefit claims, but generally that's regular unemployment from 2015 to 2019 for $2.3 billion.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, with that, I think we will conclude this week's call. As always, Ryan does give a lot of great information, and so we want to make sure you have access to that. We will send that out as a follow-up with a link to his talking points. And then feel free to send me any questions that you have as follow-ups. And if we don't hear from you, we will see you next week, Friday at 10 a.m. Thanks so much for joining.